jump into this week's episode, I do want to say thank you to our sponsor, Organifi, which is a line of organic superfood blends that offer plant-based nutrition and high-quality ingredients with less than 3 grams of sugar. I absolutely love Organifi because, as you guys know, I'm traveling these days across the country, and I need something that's convenient but works. And with their incredible travel size packets, this works really, really well for me being on the go. You can get their Organifi greens, their Organifi red, or what I love, the Organifi gold, and make sure that not only does it taste good, but you're getting the superfoods that are essential for your diet to reduce stress and reset your morning into your routines. I absolutely love all of their products. So if you go to Organifi.com/Tori Gordon and use the code Tori20, you will get 20% off all of your order. What's up, you guys, and welcome back to the Coachable Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. The financial feminist herself, Tori Dunlap, is in the building. Well, in the virtual building, I guess. Tori, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. We were joking. We got 2 Tories on the mic.
I know. 2 for 1.
Power cannot be held down. Are you a Victoria?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
Are you?
Yep.
And it's the Tori.
Yep.
My sister decided I was going to be a Tory very early.
Oh, it was my parents immediately. They were like, she's a Tory. And yeah, for me, It's like, I'm not a Vic. I'm not a Vicky. If you call me either of those things, I will probably never speak to you again. Yeah. I'm like, no, can't do it. Can't do it.
Exactly. Nope. Yeah, it's so funny how like our whole personality identity can like get caught up in like a word.
The name.
I bet
I
feel it.
Like, wow.
Yeah, in a name.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm really excited to chat with you today and get the 411 on how we can get rich. You know, I mean, who doesn't want more health, wealth, and abundance?
Yeah.
And here on the Coachable Podcast, we are really all about learning how to do things better and different. And we're willing to learn. We're willing to be students. Everyone who listens to the show understands that nothing changes if we don't change. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that looks like our habits and our fear-based thought patterns and psychological, belief systems that we have around things like money. And I, as a coach, have worked with so many students and clients who have struggled in this area, who've been held back and limited because of their stories around money. I'd love for you just to give listeners just a little bit insight of your own story and how you started her first 100K and got to kind of where you are today, fighting the patriarchy, really educating women to create financial abundance. Give us a little bit of background on how you got here and why financial literacy and education is so, so important to you.
Yeah. So I grew up with parents who educated me about money, and I learned not to overspend on credit cards. I learned how to save money, and I thought that was the case for everybody. I thought, okay, everybody knows all these things. And of course realized very quickly that that wasn't the case, and that I was the friend all of my women friends were coming to for advice and guidance. So I am 27. I graduated college in 2016. And of course, the election happened a couple months after I graduated. And I thought I would be coming into adulthood and into womanhood in a very different America than I think a lot of us expected. And for me, I felt just really activated. I wanted to do something and wanted to find a way to, contribute positively and to feel like I was fighting a lot of the racism, the sexism, the ableism, all of the things that were happening. And I realized that this financial education I had was a privilege. And with that privilege came a responsibility. And so I was working a 9-to-5 in marketing. That was my corporate job. And I slowly started building her first 100K on the side. And one of our taglines is, we don't think we have any sort of equality for any marginalized group until we have financial equality. And so I really work to see personal finance education as a form of protest, against a system and a society that actively does not want you to have money, actively does not want you to have agency. And so I saw this in my own life. I saw that, okay, if I save money, if I have an emergency fund, it means that I can leave a toxic situation I don't want to be in anymore. And I started seeing this with, other friends of mine, as like when you had financial stability, you had options, you had choices. And so I grew her first 100K on the side to the point where I was able to quit my job and run my business full time. And now we're a multi-7-figure business. We have 13 team members spread throughout the world. We have over 2 million followers, 3 million community members, and a podcast called Financial Feminist, an investing education app that's out. And it's just been the coolest thing. This is my life's work. I didn't major in finance or business. I didn't study either. I majored in communications and theater. This was not part of the plan. But it's what I believe I was put on this earth to do. The more I do it, the more I'm so committed to, to this work, and the more I can see how much it changes people's lives.
Yeah. Well, you are, and it's taking off and scaling quickly, and more and more people are coming to know who you are, and utilizing the tools that you're providing for people to change their financial lives. And I think there's fewer better gifts than that you can give somebody, because like you said, it is a key that unlocks so many more
definitely
possibilities and potential outcomes for people that they might not have had otherwise.
Right.
And I have heard you talk about your childhood and the way your parents spoke to you and taught you about money, thinking that you just assumed everybody else had the same kind of upbringing, until you had this kind of harsh reality of, I am in a very small minority of people, of those of which who are privileged. This is a gift that I was given, and now you're giving that back. What do you think are the biggest things that people don't understand that you would assume that they would about money, whether that's about credit scores, whether that's about how to invest? Like, what are those things that many of us who maybe come from that background just assume everybody knows, but you're finding like, oh no, this is what people need to learn, and there's a huge opportunity to inform them, educate them, and kind of give them a pathway to a new future?
Yeah. I would take a step back even further. There are these narratives that are perpetuated on a societal level that have to deal with money, right? Or have to deal with how hard you work. And our work at Her First 100K and with Financial Feminist is personal finance is like 80% circumstantial, 20% personal choices. Like, there's so much outside of your, strategies around paying off debt and strategies around how to save money. Nothing changes about people's personal finance situations until, yes, they control what they can't control, but it has to be coupled with policy change, right? You can't talk about money and not talk about systemic oppression and talk about these narratives that are perpetuated in order to keep you underpaid and overworked. So beyond just the myths that are perpetuated about like credit scores or saving, you have to think about who is perpetuating the myths. So like one of them is very specifically is like keeping a balance on your credit card boosts your credit score. Not really. No, it just puts you in debt. And if we were to parse back that myth and try to figure out who it came from, I have the not so conspiracy theory that it probably came from the credit card companies who are profiting when you're in debt, right? And when we think about even the most common narrative around money, that talking about money is taboo, right? I'm putting that in quotes. Talking about money is taboo or gauche or impolite. This is a narrative perpetuated by the patriarchy to keep you silent. Because if they tell you to not talk about money, if they tell you that talking about money is rude or impolite, then you don't do it. Right. Well, you don't know anything about money, right? And the patriarchy, they're having conversations about money. They're talking about money. They're talking about how to grow their wealth, right? And so that's a perfect example of something that we just as a society have believed for so long. And if we are thinking that these things are true, well, we're controllable, right? It's very easy for us to play small. Another narrative is, oh, well, if you work hard, you'll be rich, right? Like, oh, if you just work hard, you'll be a millionaire, right? Which is the American bootstraps narrative, which is so gaslighty, first of all, and again, does not acknowledge systemic oppression, does not acknowledge that a single mom working her butt off to provide for her family but can't afford her bills is not working hard enough. She needs systemic change, right?
Yeah.
So there's all of these narratives and these kind of these expectations around money, these beliefs around money that have been perpetuated by a system that, again, is in power, wants to remain in power, and wants to keep you powerless.
There's so much you just said there that we could unpack. And I don't typically talk about pop culture on the show ever, but when you were just talking about the myth that the more you work, the more money you'll make, or the harder you work, you'll be rich, right? I think about that viral Kim K video that was just saying women just get out there and work hard, do the work.
Get your fucking ass up and work, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a perfect
how many
example.
people felt completely, gaslit and just like, hello, are you tone deaf because I'm out here working my ass off every day and you don't know the struggles I face. And it doesn't take into consideration the oppression and policy and
privilege,
Exactly.
And like, yes, the Kardashians have worked very hard. However, they have had a shit ton of privilege.
Sure.
And hard work does not minimize privilege. Privilege does not minimize hard work, but you have to acknowledge both. Right. And so, and to somebody who seemingly has it all, but of course has her own struggles with fame and all of those other things. Her saying something like that is, not to your point, completely tone deaf, but also is so hard to hear if you're somebody that's struggling. Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the best examples I've heard of privilege was just basically like the video that shows how many steps in front you are in the race in front of everybody else. Like,
I think of it as like a baseball metaphor of like, I'm on second base. I still have to run home, right? But I started my life on second base or first base or whatever, right? Plenty of people are starting in the dugout or starting at the field next door, right? Like plenty of people are not there, right? And so it does not, it has to, of course, like, we control what we can control. We also have to acknowledge that so much of this is being put on us as individuals that is actually a systemic issue.
Yeah, I think that's why so many people connect to your work, and you're being celebrated in the media, you're being acknowledged in the media. So many people are getting on board with what you're doing because, first, people get celebrated in public for a lot of times what they do in private, right? But you're not just acknowledging your privilege, you're then contributing as a byproduct of how can I be of service and use what I know and the knowledge that I have with other people. And what I also pulled away from what you were just sharing in regards to kind of these overarching myths that a lot of us have just been indoctrinated and conditioned to believe is around shame when it comes to talking about money.
That's like half of so I wrote a book. It's coming out later this year. I shouldn't say I wrote a book. It's like so close to being done, but at this point it like feels done.
Sure.
But it's coming out in December, and literally we spend the whole first chapter talking about like these narratives, the psychological, bullshit and trauma around money. And that is like, in terms of negative emotions, quote unquote negative emotions, that is the number one thing, right? Shame, judgment around money, because no one taught us this. No one taught us how to money. And then we're then shamed for our choices, right? And women specifically, we are told, like, stop spending your money on frivolous things. That's why you're not rich, right? Like, stop spending your money on lattes and
Starbucks.
purses and and handbags or whatever. And not only, of course, again, is that not true? Does not acknowledge systemic oppression and is super gendered bullshit advice. But also, men do not have that. Men, when they buy Rolexes, are celebrated and get Instagram comments like, cool Rolex, dude. Right? Like, that's the narrative. Men are not shamed because they bought season tickets to their favorite football team. Like, they're not shamed for that. Right. And so there's so much shaming that happens. And then a lot of the personal finance experts that received, recognition and admiration, especially in the earlier days. I have a very public dislike of Dave Ramsey, right? Like, Dave Ramsey's a perfect example who, like, that's the person a lot of people turn to in a very vulnerable state to try to learn about money. And the very person you come to learn about money is also shaming you. Yeah. So it's like, it's a whole shame shit show. And it doesn't help. Right. Yeah. Psychologically, shame does not help. Like,
well,
it's It's not helpful.
No, it's like the way you're just describing it. It's like, I felt a lot of that when I was growing up in the church too. But it's funny, shame, what I've learned about shame is shame's favorite thing to do is it makes you want to hide. Right.
Brene Brown has a great, I think it's Brene Brown. She talks about shame loves silence and loves the quiet corner of the room. Right. And that's what the talking about money is taboo narrative is doing.
Exactly.
Right. Is it's telling you, don't talk about money that's shameful or you're going to get judged, or when you ask, quote unquote, stupid question, you're going to be shamed for it. Right. And so therefore you not only play small, but you feel so scared to make a decision that's wrong, but nobody taught you which decisions were right.
Right.
And
so
you
you're
feel
living with anxiety all the time.
Right. And we know from surveys and statistics that the number one stress for Americans is money. We know that. And so this is, we're trying to do many things at Her First 100K around money. But one of the biggest things is how do we make talking about money less taboo? That is an act of protest in a very system and a society that does not want you to have money, that does not want you to have agency, that does not want you knowing how much other people make in order for you to ask for more, that does not want you knowing that you're not alone in how much debt you have. Right. In a very society that expects these things of you, that's why talking about money is a form of protest. That's why having financial resources, understanding the financial system, that's why these things are forms of protest against that society and that system that is actively keeping you and gatekeeping that information from you.
So those listening, this is the woman you want to be going to when it comes to negotiating your salary or anything like that. Because here's the thing. How are we going to move forward and make progress if we're not willing to talk about it? It's got to be on the table. And the thing is, these types of taboo topics ruffle feathers. They might ruffle your own belief system about what you've been taught about this, or what your parents think about it, or what their parents say about it. Oh, it's not appropriate to ask somebody, what they made, or what they, what their interest rate was, or
even just saying I'm really overwhelmed with my student loans.
Yeah.
Bringing that up at brunch. I was I feel really, really nervous about my student loans. Or I feel really nervous about how this next election is going to not only affect me, but affect my ability to financially survive. Right. Or I heard a bunch of my friends live in New York. Rent increases are getting crazy, even somehow crazier. Right. And we're having conversations about it where they're my friend right now, and actually he's my business partner, we co-founded our investing app together. He's I'm trying to figure out where to live in Brooklyn. Every apartment, there's 60 people making offers on it. So even those conversations, right? That they're
it's happening.
I have friends getting married or having kids, and they're coming to me and they're I'm trying to figure out how to afford this. Right. So it doesn't have to be at least not immediately, the seemingly more intense conversations, which is how much do you make? Right. It doesn't have to be that. Even just starting, with, I got a raise at work. Can we go out and celebrate? Or I paid off my first credit card, right? That is so, so, so helpful. And again, Brene Brown says, vulnerability, all of this is about being vulnerable, about, doing something a little scary, and understanding that unfortunately vulnerability is not common because of the society we exist in. So, it's important to have these conversations and have them in safe spaces, and to hopefully open yourself up so other people will feel the ability to open up too. Yeah.
You were just sparked my memory. I'm living with somebody who's from Brooklyn, and we were having this conversation the other day. I just started about 5 weeks ago, a cross-country road trip because of put everything I owned in storage because of
I literally did the same thing. All my stuff's in storage.
Yeah. They jacked my rent. And so I was going to move to a 1-bedroom apartment. I was going to end up paying more for a 1-bedroom than a 2-bedroom. And then it's just a whole thing. I was like, you know what? I'm going to hit the road. I'm going to figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
And that's coming from people that have privilege, that have the ability and the flexibility to be able to go and work from wherever. And I'm still having those conversations, experiencing that myself. But he and I were having this conversation. He sent me we saw a meme recently about the average millennial net worth. And I have it pulled up, and I don't know if this is, I can't like cite the reference. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. I just want to put that out there. But it says like the average net worth of somebody who's, let's just take my age, I just turned 31 over the weekend, is $2,000, $2,032. Everyone under the age of 31 is in debt, right? It's like, and only going up to like 39 being like the average net worth being maybe around 70 grand. It's like, we've got to do some things differently. So that's, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, and even more significantly, if you are a member of a marginalized group or multiple marginalized groups, that stat gets exponentially worse.
Exactly.
I read in doing research for the book, the average Black American's net worth is a couple $100. And that's any age. That's that's insanity. Unfortunately, not surprising, but absolute insanity. Right. And so, it's, again, it's not because you're buying too much coffee. That's not the reason you can't afford an $850,000 house. That's not it. That's not why you can't pay off your student loans. It's very small part your individual choices and a very large part systemic oppression.
So let's talk about the things that we can do and can control.
Yes,
Obviously, go out and vote. Pay attention when that
vote,
policy comes
protest.
up. Let's
call your representatives.
Exactly.
All of that. Yes.
Let your voice be heard. Speak up for your communities and those whose voice may or may not, be ones that are heard.
Definitely.
Care about your neighbor. Befriend the people in your community and see how you can support them. But for those listening to this and they're like, okay, there are things I want to do that I can't afford, or there are things that I do that I know money is holding me back, right? I come from maybe they're even consciously aware that they've got a paradigm or a belief system that is rooted in lack and scarcity around money. What do you say to those people? Where do you start to re-empower yourself, to move from what I say in Coachable and in our curriculum is move from a defensive posture around money into an offensive posture? Stop playing defense. And how do we start being proactive and intentional and moving downfield to our end goal instead of just trying to play not to lose?
We have a whole journaling exercise that I take people through on episode 3 of Financial Feminist. And I'll give you the first prompt. So much of our money beliefs and the way we manage money is based on how we grew up around money. So this shocks people. The vast majority of your money habits are cemented by age 7. So 2nd grade, unless you do some work on yourself, the vast majority of the way you're going to see money, good and bad, is going to be largely cemented by elementary school. Right? So one of the things I asked people in that episode, the first thing is I asked them what their first money memory was. What is the first time you remember consciously having a thought about money? And I explained that for me, it was, I really wanted to go see a musical because I was a theater nerd, even that young. And my parents told me, like, okay, if you want something, you got to save your money for it. It wasn't Christmas. It wasn't my birthday. Okay, you got to save money for it. So I opened, I had a little Altoids tin and I put every penny I found on the street and every dollar I earned from something and put it in my Altoids tin. And so again, the narrative was, okay, if you want something and you can't afford it right now, you need to save money for it. You can't, take out a loan. You can't put it on a credit card, right? And that was, a really positive memory for me. Unfortunately, when I do this with clients, a lot of it's, I saw my parents arguing about money. I realized that we didn't have enough money. And so even journaling about that, of understanding what sort of beliefs, what sort of conclusions did I make about money or about debt or about earning money, what sort of those got cemented for me very early on. Based on... Oh, yeah, go ahead. I always ask. I always love to hear other people.
Yeah, I listened to that episode and I loved it. And everybody who's listening to this should go listen to that episode because you'll get several other prompts that can follow this. And it's really helpful to work through this. I thought about mine, and there's likely some that I could uncover that were earlier, but I remember one specifically. I had a $10 bill, and I was at the grocery store with my mom, and somehow I lost the $10 bill in the grocery store. And when I got home, somehow that came out, and I said that I lost the money, and we had what felt like a big family discussion around money and being responsible with money. And so there's a couple things there, right? The fact of losing money, that you can lose it. But two, like, what does it mean to be responsible and to take care of your money and to be a steward of money? And then there was a part that got cemented around being a good girl, like be good, be responsible, and spend wisely, right? And so, those were all things that I had to work through. Other things in my family growing up was, I saw my parents working multiple jobs, working really hard, right? But always, we didn't struggle, but we certainly were not wealthy. There were things that they really overly had to take on more stuff to be able to pay for.
Right.
And so one of the beliefs I had was making money is hard, right? And so I just would always talk about, well, it's hard to make money. And I was like, I'm creating more struggle and resistance for myself than is necessary. And then I remember these.
Well, it makes you feel good,
right?
Because you're like, because we live in a capitalist society that applauds hustle and not a good hustle, right? A hustle until you die, right? Like, rest means weakness, all of these things. So we're told, again, like, work really hard. And if you're not working hard, you're lazy, as opposed to like, what if I work as much as I can / want to, and also rest, right? Yeah. Like, what if it's possible to earn as much money, if not more money, in a way that doesn't burn me out?
Yep. For me, moving from defense to offense was replacing that belief with, with making money is, a natural byproduct of doing the things that I love or where I spend my energy, or, work smart, not hard, was I'm going to be more strategic. I'm going to be more intentional with where I'm spending my time and my energy and my money. And that was sort of this permission slip to get out of that storyline that was just, it has to be a challenge. It has to be difficult all of the time. And I remember when I surpassed my parents' income level for the first time when I was probably 25, and I was making more than both of them had ever made combined. And I had this moment of just realization that's like, wow, this is significant for me. And I couldn't, there are many factors to how that happened, but that was one of those moments where I realized I can create momentum and continue to create what I want with intention. Obviously there's other factors that play, but I had to really look at those stories, especially when I started my business, because when you go full time on your own, I didn't do what most people did, which is have a certain amount of savings, 6 months saved up in the bank and all of the things. I made the plunge, and probably would have gone against what a lot of advisors would have said, but I had a deep, deep level of self-trust, and it pressed on all of my belief systems with money, which was good because it needed to come up and I needed to look at all of it in that season. And that was a real catalyst for me in my ability to be a business owner, but also just to create the financial security that I want. And I'm still learning. I mean, that's why I have people like you on. I'm curious if there's anything else that you would add to that in terms of people getting out of the defense into the offense. I know you mentioned that question around what does that first memory look like?
Yeah, I think, again, the realizing what sort of assumptions have you made just about money in general? What sort of assumptions have you made about people who quote unquote have money versus people who don't? I think uniquely, especially with women, we are told that wanting money is evil or bad, right?
Yeah, gold digger.
Right. And I don't want to stack a government issued paper. That doesn't get me anything, right? I want what money buys me, which is choices and options.
Exactly.
Right. So wanting money, you want choices. Everybody wants choices. That's not a bad thing, right? And uniquely, again, as women, it is socially unacceptable to say that you would like to be rich.
Right.
Men can say that, and men are worshipped for it. Look at Elon Musk, right? Like, Elon Musk sneezes, and the tech bros are like, oh my God, right? And women, you know, a woman being confident, standing in her power, doing that, like, gets immediate misogynistic bullshit in her comments, right? And so it's okay to want money. It's okay to want choices. Every single person wants those choices. It's not bad. It's beautiful. Yeah. I want every single woman to be able to leave toxic situations and to be able to donate money to causes she believes in, and to be able to start a business if she wants, or to have kids or not have kids, or to get married or to not get married because you don't financially need a partner.
Exactly.
Like, I want all of those choices for every single woman on this planet. And so wanting money, pursuing money, is not a bad thing. Now, if you're pursuing money just, I don't know, because you want to be like Scrooge McDuck and like swim in it, of course, not a good thing. However, I don't think the vast majority of people just want money in order to see a literal stack of paper in their bank account, right? I want what that stack of paper gives me in terms of options.
Exactly. I say money gives me the ability to say yes.
Sure.
You know,
or say no.
To whatever. To, like, if I want to get the $50 bottle of wine, I can get it. You know, if I want to get the thing, like, go on this experience, if I want to donate to this cause. For
me, it's like, if I am working with a client that no longer shares my values, I get to fire that client. Yeah. And I'm not financially dependent on that client in order for our business to succeed, right? If I'm in a relationship with somebody and they pull some shit, I get to leave that relationship because I'm not financially dependent on them. Right. Yeah. So for me, it's yes. And it's also boundaries, 100%. Right? It's like, I don't have to stay in a situation I don't want to be in because I'm financially dependent on that situation.
We talk a lot about codependency on this show, and there are so many people who I've worked with who have stayed in situations out of fear, out of dependency, out of
well, and out of like 99% of domestic violence cases have some sort of financial abuse tied to them, and we know from research that the number one reason people don't leave those situations, or can't leave those situations, is because they don't have the money to do so. They don't have the financial ability to do so. So right, like, even that is the perfect example for me. It's like the unfortunate perfect case study of, like, this is why money is so important. This is why personal finance and financial education and a financial foundation is so important.
Yeah, it really is. And it can be, in those cases, life or death for people. Like, it can transform their entire
unfortunately
future.
Again, literally life or death. Yeah.
So, you guys, this is just the tip of the iceberg of the types of things that Tori gets into in her podcast. I know it's going to come out in your book that's coming out. I'm super excited for, and your show is going to be relaunching in just a couple of weeks. So what can people expect from this second season, and the things that you are currently working on and from you for the rest of 2022?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, so Financial Feminist Season 1 was it was a blockbuster. We were so excited. I set big goals, and I was really excited about the show, and somehow those goals were exceeded. The response has been so cool, and such a validation of the work we do at Her First 100K. So we released season 1 with 6 episodes. We were at the top of the business charts. We were really proud about that. And even now, having not released an episode for like 10 months, we're still in like the top 5, top 10, which is absolutely crazy to us. So in season 2, we keep calling it season 2, but it's not really a season 2 because we're just going now forever. Yes. We're going to be doing 6 episodes a month, 1 interview episode a week, and then these kind of like short actionable episodes with me every other week. So as opposed to 6 weeks and then us piecing out for 10 months, you're going to get 6 episodes a month from us. So we're so excited for that. And we're having a lot more conversations in a more broad way about money. We're bringing on musicians to talk about how did they get out of their record deal and what sort of payment do they get on tour. We're bringing in credit experts. We're bringing in experts on toxic masculinity, and we're so excited. The diet culture. We have a bunch of episodes lined up that we're really excited about. And then I'm wrapping up my book right now, but it will probably be available at the tail end of this year. Also tentatively titled Financial Feminist. So we're so excited for everything we got.
Y'all got a ton. I know people have been salivating for more from you. And the thing too, you guys, that you got to check out is go to herfirst100k.com. Tori, you're like the queen of free resources and giving people like
Thank you.
really great tangible things they can use from, you guys just got to go check it out. Because I can guarantee you every one of you listening can find something that would be useful from their free resources library. So that's herfirst100k.com/free-resources. We'll put that in the show notes. And we also want to point you to your app that you've got. So tell us just a little bit about that and what people can expect if they download.
Yeah. So one of the number one things we hear from women is, I want to start investing, but I'm too scared. And that's totally, again, another patriarchal bullshit narrative is that investing is complicated and difficult. So don't do it. Right. And if the patriarchy tells you investing is complicated and they lie to you about it and then you don't do it, well, cool. You don't build your wealth. And so we launched a investing community in an app called Treasury. It's available only on our website. But we start with an Investing 101 workshop. We walk you through what is a stock, what is a bond, how to choose your investments, how to open up an account. And then you actually make your first investment live on the workshop. So it's so cool because people come in really kind of timid and scared and a little fearful, and they walk out literally becoming, most of them, first-time investors. So we have over $13 million already linked within Treasury, which is so cool. And we have workshops available all the time. So you kind of come in with the workshop. We are not just dropping you in blind. We want to make sure we're guiding you through the process live one-on-one with me. And then you're kind of inducted into this community where you can ask questions, read videos. We have challenges around, how to become a more educated investor, how to continue investing in a smart way. And so, we're so excited about it. Again, we launched it at the end of January, and the response has just been really cool. So it's really amazing for us to actually watch the change happen live, where people, they come in and they're like, I'm here and I'm excited, but I'm a little scared and I don't know what I'm doing. And then they go, oh, well, that was easy. And we go, we know, it's not that hard. You just needed somebody to explain it to you. So you can go to treasury.app for that, or you can also go to herfirst100k.com and find
I love that, because it's what I say all the time is knowledge isn't power. That's one of the myths that we get told all the time. So knowledge is power. Applied knowledge is power. And that's a good one. What I like is, don't just come to this show or come, listen to Financial Feminist or whatever and take knowledge and learn something and not use it. Go then actually take the next step and open the, investment account, invest your money, make sure it's going somewhere. And that's why I love that you're taking people through that process in real time so that they can actually do the action that follows the information. Because we live in an age of information. We are swimming in information. We have to do something with that so that we can actually create a sustainable change. And that's what we're trying to do. I know that's what you're doing. So thank you for your contribution, for your work, for your service, for
thank you.
Empowering women and men all over the world, and really being a beacon of light for education and financial literacy. And let's all it should be like her first billion. Let's make it we're gonna
we're hoping it's now her first. I don't know. It'd be interesting to total up all of it. I don't, obviously, you don't know how many people you actually affect, but we've got to be at her first tens, millions. I don't know what it is at this point.
It. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us and for being on the show. You're welcome back anytime. You guys, until next time, go out, be coachable, learn, but go do what you've learned. I love you. I'll see you next time on the show. Come back when I see you next time on the Coachable Podcast.